Okay, we're live. Hi, Roger Dickerman. How are you today?
Hey Carol, great to be here. How
I'm
you doing?
so yeah, I'm so glad you're here. You know what? I would imagine that almost every one of our listeners knows exactly who you are, Relentless Roger, of Relentless Roger and the Caveman Doctor, and of Relentless Fitness. But could you give it just a quick who I am to anybody who might be tuning in for the first time and not know who you are?
Sure, absolutely. So I got into fitness through a little bit of a circuitous path. It is not my original career. So I was a bond trader and working in finance. And so that was about 8 years ago at this point. And I sort of took a big 180 out of the industry and backed into my passion, which is personal training now, or I would say just general fitness, exercise, nutrition, stress management, sleep, all of that good stuff that we talk about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And then about 5 years ago, with my partner Marissa, we started Relentless Fitness. It's a personal training and small group training studio for both adults and kids. And outside of my impact in Philadelphia, I'm just trying constantly to put things out online that people can use. And so that's where the Relentless Roger and the Caveman Doctor show comes in. That's where a book, Relentless Nutrition, comes in. And that's the path that I'm continuing to go down today.
Well, that's fantastic. I did not know that you were. See, I learned, and I thought I knew everything about you, Roger. That's creepy, right? But I didn't know that you changed careers and that you were a business guy and bond trading and stuff like that.
That was my original path. There was a moment in time when I thought that would be my entire future,
Yeah.
but the lifestyle just didn't click, and
Hmm.
I needed to be more active. I needed to make a little bit of a different impact. You know, it's the right path for some people, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah, yeah. Some of us do that. Like I have my job and I'm very fulfilled in my job. It's very connected with my kiddos and education and everything. So this is my hobby. But someday I feel like I'm going to take a leap. And that says a lot about, okay, I'm going to do a completely different thing. It's going to be fulfilling in a different way, but you took a big chance leaving probably what was a secure path for you and going off into uncharted business ownership, everything.
It was big. It was something that I say today was probably stupid at the time. It was one of those things that had my whole inner circle and outer circle scratching their head all at the same time. But you know, it was something that I needed to do, and so fortunately, that somewhat naive decision at the time has paid off in the long run.
That's fantastic because that's where greatness comes from. There's security and then there's risk, but with risk can come greatness. And
That's very true.
no, well, that's so amazing, and we're honored that you're here today because we reference you and Dr. Colin Champ all the time. Our little show has grown over here thanks to all the community, thanks to every listener that tunes in and contributes. And we're just learning, and we're about motivation and trying different things for yourself. But myself, personally, I was a listener to this show. I don't know how long it had been, about 6 months, where I was listening to these two guys, Jake and Zach, trying to get healthy. It was more for comedic value than anything, They were trying different things. And Zach Carlson somehow knew, I guess he was listening to your podcast and he reached out and you offered to come on and you had a conversation, a real basic conversation with them. And I remember where I was walking trails and it really changed. It was a huge game changer for me, the way that you made it very simple for them to understand about real food and choices, about those carbs, those carby things, even things that say low carb, but it's a bar. You had him turn over I'm going to link to that show because that was a really priceless show where the guys got this kind of aha and shift in their thinking about what they were choosing to try to help them lose weight.
Yeah,
And
I remember that conversation very, very well. And I think one of the reasons I click with your show is because you are talking to real people. You know, I get the sense that it's a very genuine, you know, grounded conversation. And I think, you know, all podcasts have their place, but I'm sure we can both think of a few podcasts that almost seem like they're having a conversation above our heads.
oh
And
yeah,
I think that some people gravitate to that and need that, and that's perfect for them. It's just not my niche. You know, my niche is one of my informal taglines is helping real people get real results in the real world. And
right.
I feel like on the day to day, I deal with people who have these real life stressors. Eating perfectly is not on their radar. Exercising perfectly is not on their radar. And so it's about introducing strategies that they can get 50% of the way there, 75% of the way there, and just keep helping them along their journey. So I think we click.
Yeah, we do. I always talk about how you're our filter, or at least mine, because I know that's one of your taglines too. If you're not going to make health and fitness your hobby and get all geeky and learn everything you can learn, then pick a filter and somebody that will distill it down for you.
Definitely.
And that we love pointing people to your show, because our show, again, is about staying motivated, but if you want the science and some real practical applications for the science, well, then you've got this trainer, and then you've got this doctor, and you guys are bringing latest stuff to us. So anyway, that's for anybody who doesn't know what you and I are trying to do.
Carol, you mean our non-existent dormant show? The one that hasn't recorded in 3 months?
Don't think I'm not going to bring that up.
Well, I figured I would beat you to it and segue into it before you could.
Oh my gosh. We were at Paleo FX, and that was April 10th. And Lisa Jarman came with me, and she's a listener and a big contributor to the show. And she told you at the Pecha Kucha, it's been since February, Roger. And you were like, no. It's been just a couple weeks. And she was like, I was like, oh no, Lisa hasn't updated her iPod, because it can't have been since February. And then I looked in the car, I was like, oh, they have not put out a show since February. It's not just me. So what's going on?
Well, Dr. Champ moved back to Pittsburgh. And so, we had gotten into this really nice groove in Philadelphia of literally hanging out. And those conversations were our hangouts. We would get together and sit down and turn a recorder on, and we'd have conversations. I think that's why we love to do it so much.
Yeah.
In Pittsburgh, it really started off very, very well, and we leveraged Skype, and it became just like what we would do in Philadelphia. But we've each had these snafus, these time periods that have extended into long stretches of absence. So one was around the holidays, and then one is this large gap that you're seeing now. And the gap, I take responsibility for the initial portion of the gap, and I think Dr. Champ for the late portion of the gap. But there were a number of trips, for example, to Paleo FX. There were a couple conferences in the midst of that. Dr. Champ has his boards, and so we're just looking forward to getting through all of that and returning to Skype and recording a new episode.
And I saw him tweet out that it was going to be like 2 weeks. Is that true, that we should see something in just the next couple of weeks?
So I'm willing to put it on the line live and say that the first week of June is going to be when we'll record our new episode.
Awesome. So the first week of June, world, you heard
That's
it
right.
here.
Hold me to it. Hold us to it.
Now, when y'all record, how long does it take you to publish it? Is it like within the next 24 hours or a week later?
It usually goes up a couple days later. We try to keep it semi-consistent where we record during the week, giving ourselves a little flexibility. If we, schedule for a date and can't hit it, then we do another day. And then we publish at the very end of the week. So the episode usually goes up on Fridays.
All right. So we're going to be looking for the end of the first week of June.
That's right. Exactly. So let's say, looking at a calendar here, that would be June 6th.
That's right. That's going to be a week off for me. We're doing a Tough Mudder on June 7th. And you're right. When you go to these things, even though this thing is all about listeners, it's a Tough Mudder that we're doing with a couple of other shows on the Firearms Radio Network, and a bunch of listeners, and people are coming from all over the country to run this with us. And I want to record stuff there, but it is so hard to keep a weekly podcast going when you do anything, when you leave town for anything. It's a trick. But I think your listeners are going to be patient. I know, people need to take a hiatus sometimes for things, and you guys are definitely worth waiting for. So
we appreciate. We'll try to live up to those very, very kind words, and we'll see. We hope people stick around, and we'll do some rebuilding. We'll do some rebuilding. We'll get some consistent episodes out, and we'll see what happens.
Well, we will help. We will help. And that kind of brings me to, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about. What we love is that you guys have a very structured show, unlike our show. Your show is very structured. You start out, with different segments throughout the show, and you'll get to a point where you'll have recent articles, and you'll share some science that's come out. And so we would, if your show was going on right now, we'd probably be writing you guys or asking you guys what you think about this. And we've had a couple of listeners. Well, you remember Jack Templin,
Sure do.
right? Yeah. I don't want to forget to mention Jack, because Jack is a listener to our show. He's been a listener for a while. He's a gun guy. He listens to all the Firearms Radio Network shows. And Jack lost an incredible amount of weight. You know, he started listening to our show and then started listening to yours. We referred him to you and other shows. He got podcast addicted. He lost like 100 pounds.
It was
And
great.
he's doing the Tough Mudder with us, and we're very excited to have him on board. One of the cool things is that Jack took advantage of your services over the internet. I think he did meet you once, right?
Yep, he can't. He's in Philadelphia every now and again for work, so we were able to sync up live.
But you train him virtually, right?
Yeah, I put together some plans for him, and he follows through, and he does the execution, and sort of reports back, and we tweak different things.
That's amazing. We'll have to make sure everybody knows that the links to today's show are at fat2fithq.com/092, because you'll get all of Roger's links to all of his stuff in there, and even your action plan and everything is very good information for people to have links to. So, and definitely the fact that you train virtually. But I kind of got off because I started talking about listeners when I thought about listener feedback. Some of the feedback we've gotten lately has been about carb night and carb backloading and what trainers think about that. And for anybody just tuning in, this is John Kiefer wrote some protocols a while back. One was called carb backloading, for people who specifically a way for them when you train when to eat your carbs after, and I don't know enough about that. But carb night is something that a lot of people are using in our community and finding a lot of success. And it basically is 6 days of ultra low carb and moderate protein. And then on the 7th day, you have carbs in the evening. And there's reasons, hormones, and things he thinks the evening, if you're ever going to have carbs, it should be in the evening. So on the 7th day, you have carbs in the evening. You can kind of go crazy, maybe, depending on who you are. And then you get right back to it. And a lot of people are having a lot of success. And we just wondered what your opinion was of that kind of a protocol. Maybe not for a lifestyle, but for getting some short-term goals of fat loss. What do you know or think about it?
I have a split opinion. Okay, so I'll try to give you both sides to it.
Okay.
I think a well-rounded perspective is very important, especially when you're changing into something like that. Is thinking about both the short term and the long term. So I think if we think about the short term, I like it. So I guess carb night is sort of one night a week of extended carbs, and then the 6 days where you're eating relatively low carb. I think it can definitely bring results. Period. So on that side of the coin, I am in support of it. However, and I can't mention that without the however. However, on the other side of it, I think the downside to carb night is, if we think outside the box a little bit, it promotes, dare I say, unhealthy eating habits in some people. I think that some people can do this with perspective, keep it going for a while. Who knows? Maybe it works indefinitely for some people. Others use it as sort of a short-term results generator. But for those with some eating issues, or who are on the borderline of eating issues, I think it can promote binging. Quite frankly, is locking down for 6 days and then getting very used to a binge repeat cycle. And in the long run, for those kinds of people who are prone to eating issues, and I wouldn't put myself so far out of that. I grew up on horrible food, and I grew up as a slightly chubby kid who was very used to that side of things. So the binge repeat cycle for me has become a horror show. It's something I try to get out of as much as possible. And so that would be my concern. That would be my concern, is the long term for certain people really just embracing that binge cycle, and at some point that breaking down in the long run.
So that, Saturday night was my carb night.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very ridiculous carb night, and it always
Yes,
is.
yes,
And
yes.
I always
Well, it
tell
has to be. Yeah.
I tell myself, because for women especially, he says, maybe a starch on the side of your meal, like potatoes or rice or something, and a cheesecake dessert is all you gals might need, because we have different issues with
Hmm.
sensitivities or not being sensitive and different things. So guys might be able to go crazy. Women, if it's not effective, try pulling back on how crazy binging you got. I can't. I have those issues, like you say. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have some tortillas with butter and bread and the things that I miss and love, and you start to panic that this is the last time I'm gonna have this for 7 days. I'm not gonna have one, I'm not gonna have
Yes.
just two, and and I'm okay with it because I kind of get sick. It's in the evening, so you really can't go too crazy like the whole day, and then you're like kind of over it very soon, and you're really looking forward to getting back to your low carb life by or at least I am. Like I make myself kind of sick, and I don't know. It seems yeah, I can see where if like the next day I couldn't get back on it, or the next day I couldn't get back on, you know what I mean? If it was very detrimental in the long run, I really see some dysfunction Saturday
Mhm.
night going on.
Absolutely, and also you have to recognize there's a reason why that dysfunction is going on because you are really depriving yourself over the course of those 6 days. So it's sort of building in two senses. One, it's building in the psychological sense, where in the psychological sense you're looking for that release that's been there in the past. And
Yeah,
let's be honest. I mean, we all, well, many of us use food as at least some semblance of a release, right? So
you're right.
psychologically, that's building over the course of the week. Also, physically, that is building
Mm,
because for all of the buzz about ketosis, I don't look at ketosis as a long-term strategy
mm,
unless you have extreme metabolic dysfunction.
mm,
And, maybe in those cases, yes, maybe it can be a long-term solution. However, for most of us, especially those who are training for things like Tough Mudders, who
mhm.
are training just even a couple times in the gym, I think that uh, ketosis doesn't quite work long-term, only
Right,
for short-term bursts. And so, keeping these things in mind is important.
right, right.
Now,
So,
real quick, Carol, one thing that I gravitate a little bit more toward, rather than carb night, which one night a week, again, I feel like in the short-term results box, this is something that can definitely work to get extreme and amazing results. However, I just question whether it works. Remember my thing, helping real people get real results in the real world.
right.
I have these people with personalities I call terminators, and I think for people who are terminators, this is going to work very, very well. For the vast majority of others, I just don't know if it's a viable strategy.
Okay.
But someone who's very similar is Nate Miyake. Are you familiar with Nate Miyake? He was at
No,
PaleoFX this year. So
no,
Nate
no.
Miyake, I think he calls it, um, I don't know, something about feasting at night. So it's a similar strategy. It's just not carb night. It's sort of within each day,
Yes.
backloading your carbohydrates to dinner time.
Hmm.
That I believe is a long-term viable strategy, allowing yourself carbohydrates each day, not massive amounts, but it keeps it a little bit more balanced out. But you
Hmm.
keep your early day low and you add them in with your dinner at night. I think that promotes healthier sleep and a number of other things. So I think it's adopting some of Kiefer's approach, but stretching it out over the course of the week and not having those extreme binge moments. So it's something to consider as well.
Right, right. That's interesting. I wonder, I might play around with that. It's all about, I think, what your goals are and who you are and knowing
Definitely.
yourself. Because I'm a real all or nothing person, so this is working very well for me because I a little bit of carbs each day. I haven't found that I might be able to do it, but I'm not like happy in that. And there's cravings and things that are associated with that, and the ketosis. I have difficulty getting into ketosis, but now I don't have to worry about whether I'm really in or not. I just know after a couple of days, my cravings are gone, and I feel pretty good about eating ultra low carb. But I don't want to do that forever either. So I know there's a day coming up where I'm going to have whatever I missed, and psychologically that works because I don't feel bad that I fell off the wagon. I'm supposed to have those. It's all a big jigsaw puzzle, right, for each one of us.
Well, that's a huge, I mean, you have perspective. You have really, really healthy perspective, and that's what it's all about. I mean, I would encourage, for those with that kind of perspective, you absolutely should. If you're excited about it, you should try
Hmm.
Kiefer's carbonite. You should try all of these different approaches and see what it's doing for you, because you've come to some realizations. You've come to some realizations about right now at this exact point in your life what consistent carbohydrates do to you. Like you said, they awake some cravings and it's just not working for you. So it sounds like this approach is coming around at the right time for you.
Hmm.
I think my goal is always, just being aware, helping people become aware of, hey, this approach is breaking you, or hey, if we make this one little tweak, we'll get a lot more out of it. And just, staying aware, making those tweaks, evolving, trying different things, and ultimately we all end up in the right place if we can keep that healthy perspective.
That is so golden. And that is one thing I'm seriously grateful to you and to Dr. Champ, because it's something, it's such a total shift and a paradigm shift when I heard you guys, like I said, when I heard you on our show. And I didn't just start thinking about food differently. I started thinking about how I eat. Like at the time I had, well, I'm doing this diet, it's working or not working. I'm doing this other diet, it's working or not working. And after I listened to you, I started thinking, oh, it's going to be a little different. It's going to take me a while to figure out for myself, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But I had a listener ask me yesterday and write me, okay, I'm trying to do, she used Carb Night, but I want a list of can and cannot foods. Can you give me a list? I'm like, well, I don't think that's the right, I think it's an experiment, right? I mean, understand what foods do, and then you have to understand what those foods do to you. It's like a whole tracking, figure out, tweaking, tracking, because I can't give you a specific diet of you can eat this, you can't eat this. I mean, there's some general things that you should know to stay away from, big message things. But I think a lot of people are still looking for, well, I'm doing the this diet and I'm doing it right or I'm not doing it right.
Well, dieting is, so to talk about something we had earlier, that binge repeat cycle, right?
Right.
Dieting is another form of that. And so that's why I hate the word diet. I always try and transition it over to lifestyle. It's one of the things I talk about a lot. But I have this realization that I try and bring all my, especially those clients that I work with long term, that I know that, even if I depress them in a given week, that I can sort of pull them back the very next week, and that we get a lot of FaceTime and I can explain, in-depth concepts, and then that's okay. So something I try to explain to people is this: if you want to change your life, you have to, it's not debatable, you have to change your action patterns, at least to some extent, right? And I think the way certain people think about it is, I'm going to go on this diet and I'm going to fix everything. And that may be true for the short term, but what tends to happen is the diet takes place for, let's say, 4, 6, 8, 10, insert your number of weeks. And then
Right.
things go back to the way they were. And, they get to the top of their own personal mountain, and then things go back to the way they were and they slip down the other side of the slope. And I don't think that that's anyone's long-term goal. So I have this realization that I try and present to people, and it's both empowering and it's also really depressing, where your action patterns need to change for the long haul. And for some people, again, that's depressing, because it's like, oh, well, I want to get all fired up for this 8-week diet, and that's it. I want to get to the top of that mountain. I want to look good for my bathing suit, or whatever the motivation is behind it. And they're not really thinking about anything past those 8 weeks. And if you tell them, hey, these need to stick around for forever, really, if you want to retain these results, that's very
Oh,
depressing. But what it also is, it's empowering, because I think if you acknowledge that, then you don't have to do such extreme things in the short term, because the binge repeat cycle is about extremes. So if you're
right.
thinking about just 8 weeks and getting into that bathing suit, and that's it, that's all you're thinking about, you're going to do very, very extreme things in the short term to make that happen. And if you
Mhm.
do, you will get into that bathing suit, but weeks 10, 11, 12 won't be pretty, because doing those extreme things in the short term is going to lead to that snapback extreme in the long term. And
Yeah.
so my clients are around for the long term, or at least I try to treat every client relationship as if it's a long-term discussion, right? So if they're around for the long term, I can't set them up for that. And so when we talk about, even I have a transformation program, and that's an aggressive 8 weeks. But even within that program, it's been around for almost 5 years. And early on, almost 5 years ago, it was very much about that aggressive, super aggressive time period with not much of an eye towards the future. But
Hmm.
as you go years through it, and I've had 200 people come through the program, you start to realize, oh shoot, I'm setting some people up for long-term failure, in a sense. I'm setting certain personalities up for
Right.
long-term failure in a sense. So I've morphed the program, and I've really changed it at the cost of some short-term, amazing, stunning results. Now the results are just good, but put them on a path for long-term great success. And I think that's a huge difference. And I think that people, I would hope in people's heart of hearts, they really come to programs like that in pursuit of a solution, not just a short-term fix.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I find it priceless, and I just listen to your show, weekly, that what some of the advice that you had about changing the way you think about food, that didn't get me anything in that next 2 or 3 weeks, like the things I had been trying and failing, short-term success, but a bounce back worse than I was, but the knowledge that I got and continued to get, I'm in such a better place now. And that's what you want. You want things that build you as a learner about yourself and your fitness and stuff. So I think that's golden. That's wonderful. And people find a balance between what they might want to do in the short term and what hopefully what they want to do in the long term. And
Definitely, definitely.
that's great. That's why I think our shows work very well together. Like you said, we'll keep them in the game
That's right.
and listen to you guys for the science. So that's wonderful. One thing I had written you and told you I wanted to talk about, just to kind of shift gears here, is I did want to talk about recovery. And I told our listeners that we were going to be talking a little bit about recovery. It's kind of the hot thing. Maybe I'm new on the scene and maybe I'm not right, but we used to hear a lot about different protocols and different things you should be doing. And for the last, I don't know, while, we keep hearing about downtime and rest time and recovery. And I used to think, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to, I've got weight loss goals over here, okay? that rest and recovery are for people that are already where they need to be. And last week I really had, I haven't been sick in years. I pride myself on the amount of vegetables and healthy living that I do. And I'm not perfect, but it's really a difference from before in how healthy I stay, thankfully. But I got this little bug, and I'm not going to take any medicine. I don't take anything unnatural except Splenda, and I need to get off Splenda. But anyway, I tried to just write it out, and I didn't go to the gym and I didn't work out. I thought I'm pulling back, I'm scaling back. But we got these Fitbits. See my Fitbit? And we have these little
Can
competitions.
you
Oh,
say
you
that?
have one too. Oh my God, we're gonna
We
talk
could
about
we
that.
could talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk
We're
about that
talking
next.
about that next.
Yeah.
But anyway, it really spurred me on. Maureen Nucleus and some other people in our community. We have a whole Fitbit community, and I'm getting ready for a Tough Mudder. And to me, the walking to not cramp up on those 12 miles is like key. So I kept walking like every day. I got walked 6 miles one day and 3 miles and 2 miles, very casual walks. But I mean, I got so sick that this weekend I was supposed to take my kids to SeaWorld, and overnight I had such fever and chills and congestion, and I thought I had pneumonia. I went to emergency clinic. I mean, I got myself so sick, and I'm kicking myself because I think it was about not taking the true downtime. Um, I didn't get enough sleep. I know I didn't get enough sleep last week. I don't know. What are your thoughts on what all I just said?
Well, I think it all starts with our real world markers, right? And I think that general energy levels, sickness, these kinds of things really can guide us as to
Hmm.
whether our overall holistic approach is working. And when I say overall holistic approach, I mean throw exercise, nutrition, sleep, and stress management, as well as maybe our mentality or mindset, all into one bucket. And let's say that all combines as our health and fitness approach, right? And I
Mm.
think that those kinds of markers, even if you don't want to get deep down into blood markers and biomarkers and those kinds of things, I think just, are you getting sick? Are you recovering well? How are your general energy levels? I think these kinds of things can guide us and open our eyes as to, hey, we need to do something. Because one of the other things I talk about a lot is a stress cup. I think that we all genetically have a different size stress cup. And when I say stress cup, all of our stressors, emotional, uh, business or work stress, and exercise stress. All exercise is a stressor, whether it's a light or a heavy stressor. Nutrition, digestion is a stressor. Sleep or potential lack of sleep is a stressor. All of these things pour into our stress cup, and when that stress cup overflows, and again, this is a simplified analogy, but one that I really like to use. When that stress cup overflows, bad things happen, and we get sick, and our immune system goes down for the count. And I think if your personal stress cup is overflowing, which is very natural, especially when you're training for something like the Tough Mudder, that's a tough, well, it's in the name, but that's a tough race. It's a really tough race, and I think that going into that is a lot of mileage, is a lot of pounding, and you have kids, and you have a job, and you have all these other things going on in your life, and so your stress cup may have just tipped over a little bit, and that's okay. It's just a signal to you to maybe tweak a thing or two and to pull back a little bit, and this gets into that recovery discussion. So I think to pull it all the way back around to that, recovery is essential, and recovery, thought of another way, recovery is the only way you're going to get results from your training. Because I think a lot of people think, okay, if I work out more, I get more results. If I can do, more running work, or if I can do more strength work, I will just continue to build down that path.
Yeah.
And in fact, past a certain point, the opposite is true. Because if you are constantly pushing down that path, you're not giving the body any opportunity to recover from, rebuild from, and re-strengthen from that stressor.
That makes so much sense. And we hear that and we say we know that, but we get addicted to the feeling of the exercise.
Yes.
And a lot of us are in groups, and like the Fitbit, it's a daily thing. What are you doing today? And you don't. I mean, and also I talked to my girlfriends about, like, this week now that I'm forced to stop for a few days, and so I am. We know that when we slow down, it's a trajectory maybe in the wrong direction, and we're not going to get the motivation to get back on the exercise. We've kind of, so it's a tricky thing to let yourself have a day or so off and make sure that you are going to get back to it.
Well, I mean, one suggestion for listeners who maybe have the same issue, because I totally understand that. I completely understand. I mean, habits, you develop this habit, you don't want to break it.
Right.
You want to keep going. So one thing I suggest to people is planning your rest, is literally scheduling your rest. This is something I talk about with people with stress management too. I say schedule your meditation or schedule your time away. And that seems so counterintuitive, right? If you're meditating or if you're taking relaxing time, why would you have to schedule that? But many of us work off of schedules. I know me personally, with all the clients that I see, I work off of a Google Calendar. And if I don't have my Google Calendar updated, there's a chance something's slipping my mind or not getting done. And so simply having that block of time that literally stares you in the face when you look at your version of a calendar that says rest, or that says meditate, or whatever your form of relaxation is, whether, I don't know, you treat yourself to a massage, whatever it is, write it down. Write it down in your calendar, the same calendar that you would prioritize work events and life events. Then you'll make time for it, and then it will seem like a contained event, not like something that spills into the next day and then the next day and then the next day. It's contained, it's there, it's the stretch of some hours or a day, and then you move right back into the rest of your calendar and get on with your life and get back to your positive habits.
I love that. I think that's really important, especially, well, I used to always say for moms, because working moms or stay-at-home moms, it's even harder. You have such a full plate that you need to schedule the exercise, and it's not selfish. You need it because you're a good model and you'll be healthier and all that. And then that's hard enough to get people, but anyway, it's not just moms. I know now everybody, my husband and other people, everybody has a completely full plate. So yeah, I used to just beat that wagon, that drum, that you need to schedule your fitness, you need to schedule your exercise and your nutrition and make it a priority. I never thought about if that feels selfish to do that, how selfish it would feel to schedule downtime and me time and rest time. but it really truly is. People need to understand how that is just as important as the nutrition and exercise is that recovery time and that down like low stress time.
Definitely. I mean, even if you put, every time you put a piece of exercise on your calendar, even if you balance that out by putting something in the world of stress management or relaxation on your calendar.
Hmm.
And that may seem like, well, I can't devote the time to that. But even honestly, even if you took, for the stress management side, even if you put 5 minutes on your calendar, that you're going to take 5 minutes in the morning or 5 minutes at night to do something like that, that'll go a long way. But
Yeah.
the way to really, again, think of exercise, that time that you're inputting, especially as the workouts get more intense. Now
Yeah.
that's a big distinction, right? Because if you're having low grade, low intensity workouts, recovery is not as high of a priority because you're not overstressing your body. But if you're training for Tough Mudders and if you're doing aggressive strength work and those intense sprinty or CrossFitty kind of workouts, you absolutely need straight downtime
Hmm.
where you're not taxing your body at all. So when you're scheduling those kind of workouts in, if you want the results from those workouts, the rest is a priority because otherwise the results won't come, or the results won't come the way you want, or it'll lead to injury, breakdown, sickness, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge, and I think we all. I think. Am I off thinking that you're hearing more about that now, and a more of a emphasis on rest and recovery, or is it just because I'm looking for that now
No,
more?
I think you're right, and I think part of it is, dare I say, because of some of the CrossFit culture.
Yeah.
I think, and not just CrossFit. I think a lot of different disciplines of exercise have gotten to the same place at the same time, or a similar place at the same time, and that is, you see a lot of figures out there who are, let's say, coaches, gym owners, whatever that may be. They're burning themselves out. And I
Mm.
think when you burn yourself out, you have to look for solutions. And I think there are a number of different people out there who have burnt themselves out, have searched for solutions, and are now beating the drum of recovery.
Yeah.
And it's important because it can sort of teach other people to avoid that cycle because it's very easy to get burned out. And I think some people hit rock bottom to the point that they need a long time to recover and bounce back from that. And that's not what any of us want.
No. Okay. Well, I think there's a lot for us to think about there. There's recovery to get the results you want, or you're caught in a hamster wheel of never giving your body the chance to actually build what you've broken down. And then there's recovery. Yeah, I think rest and recovery just for lower cortisol, just for everybody's stressed out lives, so that you're not sitting in San Antonio with your kids wanting you to take them to SeaWorld and you didn't take care of yourself, so you're kind of lame, mom, then when I mean, we went, but my husband had to do so much of the work and the running around to the roller coasters and the shows, and I was like lagging behind, and I'll meet you guys, I'm sitting this one out. And it wasn't good. You don't want that either. Um, so for everyday life, I think we need to take care of ourselves with rest when your body starts giving you those signals and those markers. Really take your time out, even when they're not, in everyday life. So I appreciate all that advice. I'm
Definitely.
I'm gonna shift again because we're gonna run out of time soon. But you showed me your Fitbit. Get
Yeah.
out of town. Tell
Yeah.
me about that. When did you get it?
Actually, very recently, got this about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh.
I've had clients for a long time who have kept Fitbits or similar devices,
Uh-huh.
and they've sort of shared their data with me. And I think that my perspective on it or my acceptance of it has grown over time as I've
Yeah.
seen it impact other people's lives. A company that I work with and do programs with, the last iteration of that program, every single participant had a Fitbit and
Wow.
track their steps and sleep. And it's huge to have. And so both Marissa and I have gotten Fitbits now about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and it's been fun. It's been
It
really
is
fun.
fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I could see it being something that you use intently for 3 to 6 months or so, and then it sort of naturally drops off a little bit. But I think it's extremely valuable for whether it's a short-term push, whether it's to open your eyes to the sleep that you're getting or not getting, um,
Right?
to the evolution of your steps as the seasons go by, as the weather changes. I think that these things are really important. And again, fun. It's sort of gamifying your activity.
It's totally gamifying your activity. That's such a great way to say that. We have such a huge Fitbit group, a guy named Dion Denton, who turned his life around when a few other friends threw down the gauntlet and challenged him to a weight loss challenge. Okay, so he started, it's all about activity for him. He had his diet under control, and so he was so big on the Fitbit that he started our group, and the group has grown, and we have challenges within our Fat2Fit bitter community. And it really, truly is, an awareness. First of all, at the end of the day, if you have a sedentary amount of steps, you realize, oh my gosh, I didn't move a lot today. But at the end of the day, if I see I've got 10,000 steps or more, well, maybe I don't need to go to the gym. I've been very active today. But the challenge part of it too, the gamifying of it, and seeing your friends and who you're passing and cheering and taunting and all of that, it's been a blast. It's making fitness kind of fun.
Definitely. I think yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about it to where a lot of clients have had really positive experiences with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so in turn, when you see so many people having a positive experience with something, you can't help but try it yourself. And so, I say, get a Fitbit, have fun, go down that road. And the one thing, just don't feel the need to compete with someone and then to get up at the middle of the night and take steps around the house because you're trying to beat their
Is
their
that
number of
something?
steps.
Are you speaking from experience, Roger Dickerman?
I'm speaking from stories from stories that I've heard. So
Oh my gosh.
there's no need to do that. There's no need to take it that far. But
I know. And just like anything, it can be abused, right?
yes, of course, of course.
I can see that because I have been at 9,950
Yep.
steps and gone, you know what? Kids, let's walk around the living room. Let's walk
Here we
around
go.
the living room. So dysfunctional, Mom. That's not a good model. So I know it's as with anything, use it as a motivator, but it can be a great little motivator. It's a
Absolutely.
lot of fun. I used to hate how ugly it was in terms of jewelry, and now I'm like all proud of it because everybody asks
That's
about
right.
it. It's
It really the trend is definitely growing. It's still on the way up, not the way down by any means.
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely fun. So we'll link to that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Roger, I don't want to let you go. I know we're on too long now, and we have to honor your time and let you go
Okay,
because you have a
Carol,
life.
one more thing I want to
Oh,
pass
good,
along,
good.
because one more little thing, because a lot of our conversation today has gotten me here, and I definitely want to share this because, well, let me just out and say it. Um, I think that with all of the information out there right now with exercise, nutrition, like you said, recovery is now coming onto the scene heavily. It can get really overwhelming. This is something I like to talk about a lot. Things can get really, really, really overwhelming. And I think one of my major messages to people would be, in moments like that where you feel like you've seen 7 different dietary approaches and you don't know which way is up and which way is down, and you wish someone would just tell you exactly what you can and can't do, and
Hmm.
that way you could stick to that. I would just give everyone a big message of breathe, relax, and chill out, because none of it is worth that. And when it gets to that point, it starts to become really counterproductive. And I would
Hmm.
say at the base, at the bottom of all of these approaches, everything you're reading about in all of these different disciplines, the baseline is really rooted in very basic fundamentals. And you can try all the diets you want, but if you eat well rounded all the time, you're really not going to harm yourself. And in fact, you're going to help yourself. If you stick to basic fundamental strength and movement and wear your Fitbit and get active and stay active, you're really going to help yourself, not hurt yourself. If you just sleep more and try to increase the quality of your sleep, you're going to help yourself, not hurt yourself. And I think if in those moments when things get overwhelming, you can just breathe and look at those baseline fundamentals, you're going to be in a great place.
That's so important for us to hear. With the information overload that's out there right now,
Yes.
it's a blessing and a curse. It
No doubt
really,
about it. And
it,
there are going to be moments of your life when you are ready for, this new new way, this new way to approach things, and you're going to get all fired up and you're going to do it. And those are great times. But there's also going to be times when you are overstressed, when your stress cup is overflowing. And in those moments, just look at the basic fundamentals. Move, sleep, relax, eat well, and just be done with it.
That's just so golden. You make it sound so simple. We overcomplicate everything. Yeah, but that's great. No, I appreciate that because I mean, we constantly do shows about that, about, okay, how to not get overwhelmed. And we make that overwhelming, how to not be overwhelmed. So I think that's great to have some just fundamental advice. Thank you very much for that. Also, though, in that, tell us a little bit about, I mean, I got your action plan a year or so ago when it first came out, and it's golden, and I recommended it to people. Very simple, long-term success type of, each day, there's one thing that you can do. One thing that if you do this, by the end, you've done 30. How many actions did we do?
56.
56. But it was very doable because each day was just one thing to do differently. It wasn't a stressor, and it was just a moving, and it was either learning about something or doing something. And so I loved that. You still have that out there, right?
Yeah, so that actually that went through a year-long evolution where I wrote it live and released it each and every day as I was putting pen to paper, or in this case, fingers to keyboard, I guess you could say. And then I published it officially as this year kicked off. So, as 2014 kicked off. So yeah, that is the Relentless Nutrition Action Plan, and it's on Amazon. So I'm excited just to have that out there.
Yeah, we'll link to that because we've heard from people how successful it is, and I knew it was. We got to hear it come out. But then I also ordered it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and we refer people to that because it's very doable. And so then they can contact you also if interested in online personal training, right?
Yep, it's something I do as well. I have my live clients in Philadelphia, and I also invite those, from afar to do things like Skype consultations and those things. I am going through some website revampments, this year. So, right now it's always going to be at relentlessroger.com, but I will go through some iterations. You should see some new stuff from my end, my neck of the woods, as 2014 goes along.
Great. Well, that's what I was going to ask, is what's next.
So I'll tease it. It's definitely in the brainstorm phases, but I'll tease it a little bit. So that Relentless Transformation Program that I do, I've done one virtual iteration. I've done now almost 20 physical in Philadelphia iterations, and again, about 200 people have been through the program. So I'm always looking for ways to evolve, but it's about to hit its 5-year anniversary, so I'm looking to do something super special for 5 years. So post Labor Day will be the 5-year program, and my goal is to have something that anyone can do from anywhere. And that's all I can say about it right now.
Okay, that's a good teaser. That's a good teaser because we're all everywhere. And so
exactly.
We'll make sure and keep following for that. That'll be fun. And then we can expect that post-Labor Day as well, first week in June,
post-Memorial Day. You don't want post-Labor Day.
Oh, so you're talking about the end of the summer.
So with the transformation program, I'm talking about the very end of the summer in September. But for what you're talking about, the podcast, we want that post-Memorial Day.
Right. So we have a couple of big things coming up. Right after Memorial Day, we should start hearing you and Colin put out more shows. Yes. I'm sorry, Dr. Champ. And then that'll carry us through to the end of the summer when we are going to see some real cool things, even more cool, come out through your website.
Definitely.
Offerings. Well, that's fantastic. That's good news for everybody. And if you missed Roger Dickerman at PaleoFX, I feel for you because that was so much fun to get to see you live. Your talks were great. The stuff you moderated was great. It was wonderful to meet you in person, and it was just a big thrill for all of us. So, are you going to be at the Ancestral Health? Anything else? Any other speaking things you have coming up?
Probably not this year. We have a lot going on the Philadelphia side. For anyone out there who happens to be in Philly, yeah, we're looking to do a lot of cool stuff on the landscape and expand our location and lots of cool stuff. But part of that is it's that seesaw, right? If you do a lot of effort on the local front,
Hmm.
He can't travel as much, so probably not. Although, hey, if I am open to last minute changes, so if something shifts and I'm able to take the time out, I'll take the flight, but I wouldn't expect it, unfortunately. But
Okay.
I would say a big have fun. I've been there several times. Uh, it's amazing. I think this year, what is San Francisco?
Somewhere in California. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I don't know, but
yeah.
we'll link to that as well. Ancestral Health Symposium, isn't that it?
Yes,
Called? Okay. And yeah, we'll link, but if you're in the Philadelphia area, then you could see. Also, our live streaming from Paleo FX should be coming out pretty soon if it's not out already.
I think
So,
so. I think you're right about that. Yeah.
yeah, so people could catch you there. Okay, well, I hate to say goodbye, but we'll just talk to you soon, and we'll be hearing from you very soon. In just a few weeks, we're going to hold you to it, okay?
Sounds great. Have a Carol. Always appreciate the support. You're a
Absolutely.
wonderfully positive woman, and the show that you run is, I'm sure, changing many people's lives. So keep up the great work, and thanks for all you do.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that because we think the world of you. So that's high praise. Thanks, Roger. Okay, say hi to Dr. Champ and just keep doing great, amazing things. We will chat soon.
Will do. Take care.
Okay, thanks. Bye.